delve into the human condition probably much more than any other church I know, for the most part. And having said that, I'm a wanderer. Is that going to distract people if I move around much? Okay. I don't like being behind the podium because I feel separated from folks, which is why as a psychologist I don't keep a clipboard or anything. I want the connection. I have to tell you about my first experience with Unity, which probably many of you had as well. I grew up Catholic, and anybody else grow up Catholic here? So many of you know. I adore the Catholic Church. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful ceremony, but one thing that I realized later in life was that as soon as the priest would get up to start talking, my mind would go over here. What I didn't realize was happening was that I was meditating. I was a kid, and I was meditating. And as soon as he did the sign of the cross, I tuned back in. Now, granted, I was tuning into my soul in my own meditation without realizing it. But I didn't know that until I was older. And that's one of those things where I think I want to talk with folks about today is how do we tune into our soul so that we can become ultimately healthy and happy. But that first experience with Unity was very interesting for me. I had just got done with my graduate program, moved to a whole other state to start my internship, which whole lot of stress, whole lot of human condition going on. There was so much that had happened in those previous 2 years. And I wanted a new spiritual experience. And so one of the things I did was searched out churches, and Unity was in one of the college, I guess it was a newsletter. I hadn't started there yet. But it was really interesting. They had this wonderful description. Walk in, sit down, all this love happening, all these hugs, all these wonderful welcomes, and I started crying. Anybody else have that experience? Yeah. And that is what is so different about Unity versus other denominations. I don't want to call this a denomination, because it is so inclusive and so loving and accepting. And I literally cried to a full service. That was in 1997. And when I moved here, it was one of those things where I knew that church would be a different experience than this church, and I'm kind of a wanderer because I do presentations at other community churches. But the commonality is always unconditionality. It's always pure love. It's pure acceptance. And to me, that's what soul health is all about. It's wanting to accept ourselves at that deepest level. Because we are more than willing to accept and be unconditional toward others, but how much do we do that for ourselves? And so that's really what today's talk is about. And so I'm seeing lots of nods, so people are resonating with this. I'm a holistic health psychologist in town. My journey has been very, I like detours, they're interesting to me. And so I've had many detours, but what I have aligned with is what I'm going to talk about today, which is soul health. And through my experience, I was trying to think back. I've been doing some form of therapy since I was 18 years old, which is really a wonderful experience for me because I've met thousands of people and feel like people can sit very comfortably with me telling me all about their human condition. I was out with a new friend Friday night, and she started telling me about some really heavy things, and then she stops and she says, "Are you uncomfortable with this?" I said, "No, I'm a psychologist." Number two, I always feel honored when someone shares the depths of who they are because it helps me know who they are at a much deeper level. And I think, again, that's a part of what the movie is about, is this is the most open place, I think, probably on planet. So the other thing I have to laugh at is I do a lot of talks and a lot of presentations, many for healthcare providers, corporations, this and that. None of which could I wear tie-dye pants to. So thank you. I tend to wear what I want most of the time, but it is very fun to pull out some of the more fun stuff. And so anyway, thank you for that. So what I'm going to talk about is a little bit of this model. I'm going to have you go ahead and I'm going to point to Siri to help me out with the slides here. How many of you have felt like this or do feel like this right now? As far as being wilty, bothered, and beaten down. So to me, this is sort of my depiction of the human condition that throws us curveballs and storms. And how many of you would rather feel like this? And how many of you have switched back and forth? Sometimes in an hour. it's amazing how quickly I'm shifting. I can be laughing hysterically one minute and then crying the next, but it's, cleaning out a lot of the stuff that we all carry. So just for a second, flip back and forth to those. Get that visceral feeling of how it feels that, that's what I want. So we're all moving toward that. And again, I think community is probably one of the best places to learn how to evolve. And one of the things I say with clients, workshop participants, all of the above, is that my mission is not just to help people heal. I want to help them evolve beyond whatever they've been dealing with. Because that's the only way we really grow. That's the only way we really leave all that stuff behind. So in other words, how do we get from there to there? And in the midst of this, I want to tell you a little personal story of my own human condition that I think will illustrate kind of where I come from. And what was interesting is I was in a Tai Chi class in the midst of writing my book, and one of the people came up to me and asked me what I was writing about. And I said, well, it's basically a model that I use with therapy clients to teach them how, it's like a blueprint, to teach them how to evolve beyond the human condition. And he said, well, what have you dealt with? And I usually don't ask me that question. So I'm sitting there with my gym, or standing there in my gym clothes going, And it was really interesting because my answer was, because I'm used to not sharing because that's not my job to share. But I said, probably not much more than what everybody else does. Meaning, we all deal with it, right? Just in our own ways. So when I was 9 years old, my father had an accident that left him medically disabled. It really blew everybody's world because basically, I really don't remember any down times in our family before that time. I do not remember any negative upsets. Yeah, we had deaths in the family, we had this and that, but I just don't remember it being a huge impact. So when he had his accident, you can just imagine what all changed. He was in the hospital for, I think, 3.5, 4 weeks. At the time, they shielded me. I was 9 years old. I did not realize that he almost died. I think I was probably maybe 12 when my mom finally said, yeah, he almost didn't make it. So they shielded me even then. But all of the things that changed were, Dad didn't go to work anymore. Mom had to go to work. So that shifted. Financially, everything shifted. Environmentally, everything shifted. I mean, everything shifted, and as a 9-year-old, you just go with it because that's what you know. And so, fast forward, my dad's health continued to decline, and what happens when a lot of people don't decide to move beyond their stuff? He decided to decline. So his soul was declining, as far as I'm concerned. He gave up, like many, many people do, because it's so easy to get buried under the human condition. And I'm sure all of us have been there. All of us have clawed our way out and then gotten dumped again. So fast forward to age 21. I had just turned 21. It was a Thursday, I remember it very clearly. Had a great day. Saturday morning, 2 days later, they took my dad to the hospital. His health had declined to the point where they needed to do something. And they immediately put him on life support. Didn't hear any words come out of his mouth again because they put him on a ventilator. He basically was diagnosed with lung failure, heart failure, and kidney failure. Not a very good outcome at all. And at 21, you're kind of self-centered. You're like, you're doing your own thing, but you realize, boom, you've been hit by something. And so he was in intensive care for 17 days. And again, holiday time of the year, heavy time of year. Well, on Christmas Day, we find out he is not going to make it. That was his favorite day of the year. Absolute favorite day of the year. And I look back now and I think about it and how heavy that time was and how heavy his human condition was, our human condition. And my mom, as we were Catholic, my mom had called the priest to come do the final blessing. And I remember I was standing on the right side of his bed. My mom was on the left side, and I was facing the door, and I saw the priest come in, knowing what was about to happen. And my dad saw the priest come in. And you can just imagine what went through him because he suddenly realized why the priest was there. Priest walks up, and my dad's head turns to look at me. I will never forget this day. Turns to look at me, we lock eyes, and that human condition, his and mine, were forever suspended. I will never forget that day because the look in his eyes was so fearful. He was so full of fear at that point. And so the priest did the final blessing, and very, very soon after that, my father slipped into a coma, and basically the nurses said, we don't know how long this is going to be, go home, get some rest. I think we got home 9-ish, we went to bed, I tried to, it was about 10:30 or so, went to bed. What was really interesting was there was a ton of healing that happened between my dad and I before he passed. I won't go into all the layers of that, but it was really interesting to watch that. But I woke up, I had a dream that night. In the very brief time I had gone to sleep, I had this dream that he and I were sitting in a conference room, no windows, and I was at the end of the conference table, and I have to laugh at this because I still do this sometimes, where I'm going to kick my feet up on the table. I'm going to be relaxed. I had my feet up on the table, my dad was over there, we're just having this chat. And all of a sudden, the lights go up. And I'm calling him, I couldn't hear from him anymore, or couldn't hear anything. And then all I remember is waking up with my feet on the floor, sitting, staring into the darkness of my room, and the phone rings. And basically it was the nurses saying, you need to get back down here. So the situation was that I think we got back down there about 12:30. He passed away at about 1:15 on the 26th in the morning. And I know he waited, so we would not have to experience his death on Christmas. I know he waited. And if anybody else has watched the death process, you know they're still conscious enough. Their souls want to do everything they can to protect other people, if at all possible. And so it was really interesting because, fast forward again to last year, when I was doing radio interviews for the book, and basically what had happened was someone asked me, one of the radio interviewers said, well, what was it that caused you to understand the human condition so much? And what was it that caused you to write about soul health? And the interesting thing was, I had no idea that that whole process with my father was what paved the way to creating this model. Because I get the human condition. I saw it happen. I saw it unravel for him and my family. But I also saw my own process being withered along the way. And what was really interesting, too, is it took me 7 years until I healed from my father's death. What I laugh at is when employers say, oh, you get 2 days off. How in the world does anybody do that kind of deep work, that soul work within 2 days? But it took me 7 years. I remember the exact day that everything clicked into place. And it was when I was telling the therapist, I was getting ready to make closure with the therapist that I was going to before I went to the internship. And her name was Nancy. She was in Indianapolis. And I said to her, Nancy, it just feels so weird to be graduating and finishing this process and not have my father be there. And I didn't know this before I said it. I said, because he's the one who always supported my crazy career ideas. When I went to the chef, he bought me chef stuff when I was in 4th grade. When in 4th grade, he buys me this awesome food processor for Christmas, and I'm like, I need to do this. But the good thing is, he liked to cook, so we cooked together. We did stuff with it together. When I thought, hey, I want to be an artist, he bought me as many art supplies as possible. So, it all comes together, and that's what I want to really talk about, is how do we use our human condition to instruct us, and how do we help these souls? Because that's what this is really about. We have to do both. We have to do the human thing, and we have to do the soul thing. That's why we are here. You agree? We are not here to just do the human thing. We're not here to just do the spiritual thing. It's a convergence of both. And we cannot learn and grow without both. And that's one of the things that I talk about the human condition, not to depress people, but to help people understand that it is our water, it's our fertilizer, it's how we understand our soul the most, and how we understand how we're supposed to evolve. And so just like I can look back and go, oh, that's why all of it happened, that's how this model evolved. I thank my dad every day for this model. I thank him. And I also thank him for the bits and pieces along the way, but you have to learn to interpret what the human condition is trying to tell you in order for you to feel that radiance and that fulfillment. That makes sense. So just like what Elizabeth says, I go to the 9 a.m. service, and I love hearing over and over again. She's been weaving in the whole idea of soul. I don't know if she's doing it in the 11 o'clock service, but she's definitely doing it in the 9 o'clock service. And the other part that I'm loving, and I say this in my book, but the other part I'm loving is that the human condition is not being done to us. It is being for us. It is being done for us. Every single thing we experience is there for us to learn and grow, even though we might feel mired in it. And if we can step out of the emotion of it, the poor me part of it, about, oh, this is so hard part of it, just long enough to go, wait, how can I look at this with curiosity in order to grow from it? Then we got it. We got that radiance. We've got that light. We've got that fulfillment, even in the midst of really awful things. That's how Viktor Frankl got through. That's how, when we can list a lot of the people that have gone through tragedies and how they've gotten through. So I want to introduce you to your soul briefly. And I want to walk through a little bit more of this. One of the ways that I introduce people to their soul, and someone in the 9 a.m. service asked what soul is. And I want to say this, that to me there are no words to describe what it is and define it. You have to experience it. You know, we can talk around it, but until someone really gets that, I call it the sweet spot, gets into that sweet spot, goes, oh, there it is, we're not going to get it. So I'm going to have you do a little breathing thing real quick, because it's amazing how this will get you closer and closer to your soul. And so what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you take just in a second, I'm going to have you take a slow deep breath in, and I'm going to have you make an audible sigh as you release it. But what I want you to watch when you make that audible sigh is watch the air go down, but then notice where it settles with that deepest sound that you make. We're going to do that a few times just to get you there. So if you feel like closing your eyes, that might get you a little quicker. So take a slow deep breath in, audible sigh. Just watch that deepest part of where that sigh goes. It's where that deepest part of that energy goes. Let's do it again. Breathe in. Do you notice that energizing a little bit? Do it again. Deep breath in. So the interesting thing with sighs is that whenever we're stressed, we sigh, right? So our body is actually trying to tell us, it's cueing us that we need oxygen, because when we're stressed, we breathe very shallowly. But our soul is also cueing us to get back in touch, because when we are in that deepest layer of stress, many of us stay connected with our souls. We are all over our heads, we're all over our hearts and emotions. We turn into the tree that's not working out so well. But remember, every time that you're stressed and feeling that sigh, it's your soul's way. It's not only your body's way to try to oxygenate, it is your soul's way of trying to get back in touch, because it knows you have disconnected. Does that make sense? Did you feel that little sweet spot when you started doing that? Okay, so that's partly what I'm going to teach you this afternoon in the workshop, is how to get there and hopefully stay there more. Because just like the alignment of the song, the second song is, we have to start aligning. You know, if you look at everything that's going on in the news right now, it is so misaligned. The world is misaligned, right? The wars, these shootings, this crazy violence going on in St. Louis. So much alignment because it's all fear-based. We are living in fear. We're living in fear. And just like the connection and the alignment, we have got to learn to come back together. And that's why, again, to me, unity is all about love consciousness. It's all about bringing us back together in oneness. You know, that is a language you don't hear in many places, but it's something that we have to get to. Okay. I'm seeing nods. Is this resonating? Okay. So the model is a blueprint. I call it a blueprint on how we need to get there. So we're going to talk a little bit more about it. I have a couple quotes. Diseases of the soul are more dangerous and numerous than those of the body. Would you agree? And we all know about the mind-body connection, but we manifest physical illnesses when we're not dealing with our stuff. I have a knee thing going on right now, and it's about pride. And it's not the typical, well, it depends on who defines it, but for me, I know it's about my pride of being a very strong, independent woman who's probably too strong and independent. So I'm having to shift that and let go of some of that, because I am so busy right now with everything that's happening that I haven't been asking for help. And so I am learning to let go of my pride, and my knee reminds me every day when I'm not. It's also reminding me of some other things that I need to let go of as far as strength. But we know. So how do we get here, which is what we all want? This is the model, and I call it the soul health model. And if you look at those 10 branches, you'll look at them going, oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that as part of my health. Most wellness models out there actually have 5, maybe 6, and it was really interesting because the spiritual branch for other models, they did not have a spiritual branch for many years. They had 4 or 5 pieces of this. They had physical, psychological, social, and intellectual. But as we know, if we're not feeling close to spirit, if we're not being connected with our souls, how well do we really feel? We might be staying up in our heads, but we're not feeling that radiance and that wellness. So I added the other branches because to me, listening day in, day out to the human condition with clients, I realized that there were several that the other wellness models did not have. And the other piece that I noticed, thank goodness, was that the soul was never involved in any of those wellness models. But to me, soul is everything. Soul is everything. So the trunk of this tree is what represents the soul. So when you look at this trunk of the tree, what do you notice? The hands? The hands. And it's split. So the hands are holding up the human condition. You know, each and every one of us has a soul that's trying to support us at every single nanosecond. But we just need to tune into it in order to figure out how to get through each one of these branches. Does that make sense? And the other part of this that someone mentioned earlier is that it doesn't have roots. I intentionally did not want roots because the tree of life generally has roots. I agree with that because we need nourishment, but to me the soul is infinite. The soul is infinite. And unity of all places knows that basically from one life to the next, we are evolving. And even in this life, every second we are evolving to that next level. And if we open to it, it's beautiful. Even this last 6 weeks between me struggling with the human condition at times, every time I get done crying or whatever it is, it's like, I learned. This is exactly what needs to be happening. And that's the beauty and that's the radiance behind it. So let's, if I can have a switch. So I put a couple things in here that you might resonate with that, again, go way back to the Bible. So then Jesus said, come to me, all of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. Let me teach you, because I am humble and gentle in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. And so the point is, we all carry these burdens. We all have the heaviness. And when we come together through that oneness and support each other, we can learn to get through it together. And that's what this whole piece is about. Spend time and energy in training yourself for spiritual fitness. Physical exercise, of course, has some value, but spiritual exercise is much more important, for it promises a reward in both this life and the next. So exercise your spirit, and I always say exercise your soul. You know, when I'm doing therapy, a lot of people think that I have a hard job because people come, excuse me for saying this, to bitch and moan. That's not at all what I do. And my mom still doesn't understand this whole idea of therapy. I said, Mom, the point is the people who come to me want to grow and evolve. There is nothing awful about that. To me, the best thing in my life is watching a soul grow. It is beautiful. It's beautiful. And I get to see it every day, 9 to 10 hours a day. So it's a beautiful thing. Okay. So how do we live through the soul, and how do we make this work for us? And the first thing, I mentioned this earlier, is understanding that the human condition is our master teacher. Every single thing that we experience is created by Spirit for us, and I say for us, and for our growth. So no matter what trial, no matter what tribulation, no matter what events, whether there's a tragedy or whatever, if we can start to pull out of it and look at it from a 3D perspective and go, look at it, and I try to teach my clients to look at things like that with curiosity. Get out of the emotion to say, how is this going to help me grow? Or what do I need to face? What is it that I'm supposed to use for my spirit to grow and evolve? But most of us don't do it that way. Most of us cringe or pull back instead of embrace those kinds of things. The second part of this is transcending the human condition is our spiritual right, and I add, and our duty. A radio announcer last year said, ooh, duty, that's big. I said, it is big. If we are brought here to learn and grow, then why aren't we doing it? If we are missing opportunities, but it's our duty because that collective energy is what we need. We need the collective energy of growth, just like we need the collective energy of love. Because if we keep doing what the collective energy of fear is, that we see in the news, what's going to happen? Pretty scary. Pretty darn scary. And so it is learning to live in that love space, living to learn in that soul space. Because to me, it's the same thing. We live in love, we live in soul. But again, if we keep doing what we're doing, we're not going to get very far. I'm going to throw this in there. And I'm not sure how much Elizabeth talked about this over the past, but the whole 2012 thing was all about moving out of aggressive energy and moving into more loving energy. And we're seeing much more turmoil now. And so people are like, well, it's not working. Well, actually, it is working because we have to see the contrast. We have to see what we're tired of in order to grow into something new. And I always tell clients, we do not change unless we are tired enough of ourselves or our situations. Why else would we grow? We would not. So, although I hate seeing what's going on in the news, I hate seeing what the turmoil that people are dealing with, even the Robin Williams thing, I cannot help. I get chills when I think about this. I've had so many conversations with clients this week. He had that in his path. He was supposed to do what he did to help raise awareness about mental health issues. Because look how fearful we have been all of these years about admitting that we all have depression, anxiety, whatever. And until that veil goes away, how are we going to heal it or not? I've been depressed in my life. I have had some thoughts that I didn't want to be here on this planet. And when you hear a psychologist saying something like that, it's like, ooh, what's that? But it's because I've learned to transcend it. I've learned that that's not my path to get out of here. It's my path to stay and evolve beyond it. Because I can assure you, whatever next life, I'd be kind of learning it all over again. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. That keeps me growing a lot when I say, ooh, I don't want to come back to learn this again. So I don't know if you all use that or not, but a lot of them, that's what I use. As humans, we must do both the human condition and the spirit condition. I mentioned this before. I haven't had a client. I don't work with her anymore. I had her for years, and bless her. And she was not doing anything to heal her human condition. All she wanted to talk about was spirituality, which I love talking about spirituality with clients because I know that I can help them. The problem with it was she didn't want to do the human part. She only wanted to do the spiritual part. That don't work. You got to do both. And I don't know how many times I said, you got to deal with this abusive marriage. You got to deal with this. You got to deal with that. You can't live over here just doing the spirit stuff. It does not work that way. You've got to do both. And I even said, and she's very, into the astrology, into future lives. And I said, you will come back doing this all over again. And she could not click out of that. She could not click out. So we have to do both. And living in the soul is to live the Christ consciousness. He didn't live in the human condition. He watched the human condition, but he didn't live it. He lived in pure love. He lived in those pieces that we all look for that create that beautiful tree. The unconditionality, the love, the peace, the forgiveness, even when awful things are lived through his soul. He was the ultimate example of living through soul. So how do we get there? To know your soul is to know true health. This is probably my favorite statement I ever wrote in that book. And I say it a lot because that is how we do it. We have to get to know ourselves. And the thing is, and we talked about this in the earlier service, we have so much programming. We have so much stuff that gets shoved into our brains. The shoulds, the ought-tos, the criticisms, all of the things that we're programmed with, that we live our lives by instead of living through the essence of who we are, which is our soul. Because that essence of who we are is unique for each and every one of us. The only thing that's similar is that we need to come together. That's the only thing that is similar. And the whole point of this is the more you know yourself, the more you peel away those levels of the human condition and understand yourself and understand why things happen, the deeper and deeper you become, I don't want to use the word rooted, but grounded within yourself. Because the people who know themselves the best are the ones that really weather storms the most too. Okay. So again, all of the different levels and the branches of the human condition, this is how we reach our radiance. This is how we reach that fulfillment. That is how we reach that wonderful blossoming of that tree. Second thing is becoming a steward to your soul. We are stewards to lots of different things in life, but rarely are we stewards to our own soul. Is that true? We give, we do, but we don't stop long enough to go, what's going to be the best for me right now? What is going to be the most aligned with who I am so that tomorrow I don't regret something? True? We don't take the time to do that. Be honest with yourself and your soul. We, again, because of those conflictual messages we've gotten, we are not that honest with ourselves. And one of my questions I ask clients a lot is, okay, if you were to be honest with yourself, I'm not saying be honest with yourself, I'll say if you were to be honest with yourself, what would you say? Because somehow that's easier for people to admit. And they get to it pretty quickly. And then they go, wow, I guess I'm not being honest with myself. But it's honesty about everything, about what you want, what you don't want, what aligns you, what misaligns you, all of those things. So. Also, getting quiet, learning to listen, trust, and act. How many of you have had gut reactions that you haven't followed, and then it didn't work out so well? Lots. That everybody. Okay. Your gut reactions is your soul trying to speak to you. So when I had you do that breathing exercise, I was trying to get you down to that gut. Because it's the clearest, most concise, and direct message we have is that gut. Our heads can lead us astray, yes. Our hearts can lead us astray, yes. That gut reaction does not lead us astray. It does not lead us astray. But we do not get quiet enough to listen, to trust it, because of all those programs we have, and then to act on it. We don't. And so that's what we have to do to start living through the soul more. The next one is we have to choose evolution over the human condition. If we keep living in the human condition, how are our lives going to go? It's like Einstein says, keep doing the same thing over and over again, you might as well expect some insanity going on. Yeah. And that's it, is that we have to choose to grow beyond our old ways. We have to choose, even in a moment when our patterns kick in, it's like, well, this is what I always do. We have to learn to stop ourselves to go, wait, if I do this, then it's Groundhog Day. I'm going to be doing the same thing over and over and over again. That doesn't mean growth. And yes, it's harder to grow. It's much harder to grow than to stay the same. Although I would argue that we have many less regrets when we grow, when we get to that end of life. And I think my dad's biggest fear when I experienced that was how much he let his human condition rule his life rather than living through his soul. I really honestly think that. He's one of my guys now. And I hear him. And he's always past the human condition stuff, but it's really interesting because he dives into some of the stuff I do. He was a businessman. Somehow, I'm a psychologist, but somehow I get the business model. And I think it's him. Yeah. I have to tell the story real quick. I have a client, because this goes in with this. I have a client who, I really love working with this girl. She came to me probably, actually maybe 7 years ago. It was about 7 years ago. She was referred by one of the physicians I used to teach in medical school. And many people would see her and be afraid of her. Because she's covered head to toe with tattoos. She looks and she's got a tongue piercing. She's got all these piercings. And of course, the first thing I ask is, are you willing to share your stories? Because the tattoos are always stories, and I think they're beautiful. And I think one of the things where she shared some of those, and boy, she had a tough childhood, very scathing comments from her father. I mean, it was just lots and lots of stuff. And we had to peel away layers of her human condition. Hard work. Well, she comes in, and this is about 2.5 years ago, and she's sitting there, and we're opening calendars to look for the next appointment. And she says, and I can see up over my calendar that she put her stuff down, and she goes, oh, this growing stuff is so hard. Yeah, it's really hard. It's really hard. So we go back to the calendar, and then I see her do it again. Flop her hands on her lap, and she says, Dr. Kelly, are you still learning and growing? And I burst out laughing, because I don't remember exactly what I was going through. I think it had something to do with the book, because the stuff I write is not typical psychologist stuff. And, I worry about other colleagues and this and that. I'm sure that's probably what it was. But I looked at her and I said, oh, yeah. I said, just because I write about the human condition does not mean I'm exempt from it. And so we had a good chuckle and we went on. But the point is, we have to choose evolution. We do have a choice, but we kind of don't have a choice. And that's where we have to go. And that's the only way we're going to get to that love energy. So getting back to this is what we all want, right? So we have to get to that soul base. So, a couple more quotes for you. Good for the body is the work of the body, good for the soul, the work of the soul, and good for either the work of the other. So again, Thoreau got it. You have to do both. There is no choice. You have to do both. Learning how to operate the soul figures to take time. I love this because people will be like, oh, how long is this going to take? I love it when clients come in for the first time and say, well, how many sessions am I going to need? I don't know. And I basically usually say, I don't know, but it depends on how much growing you can do. And one of the I have these hazards of therapy, but one of the hazards of therapy, the first one is the more you learn, the more you want to learn. The more you grow, you want to grow. So the hazard of that is, okay, if you sign on for growth and evolution, well then let's go to it, but you're going to be on it for a while. And that's good. Okay. And every human being is the author of his or her, given her, own health or disease. And I absolutely believe we create our own realities. Absolutely believe it. And this last 6 weeks and I have proven that. And so we have to have those reminders. We have to have the wake-up calls, but we have to learn how to read them. We have to know how to use that to our benefit for our growth and evolution. Go to the next one, actually. So what I'm going to do this afternoon, if people are interested, we're going to start at 1:30. I'm going to go a little bit deeper into the soul for folks, and I should say a lot deeper, and both with some meditations, some practices, and help you understand a little bit more about this whole process. So it's from 1:30 to 5. We're going to have some fun, but also really dig into some stuff. The other things I want to mention are that, and I forgot to mention this at the other service, I have bookmarks back there, but I also have fortune cookies. I call them soul fortunes. They have quotes from the book in them. So make sure you take them. Take one. I have more in my car I can go get. But that is one of the things where, when I tell people, not that you want to fondle them, but feel around for the right one. Because you almost always get the message you need for the day. You almost always get you do get the message you need for the day. And there's 10 different quotes from the book in there. But it's something that people, they can put on their fridge or wherever they are to help remind them to just stay back in touch. We're going to do like a 5-minute meditation because I really want people to understand their soul. So when you get really again, and I say the body parts cross if you can help it, because again, there's that tension. We're going to start with a couple sighs again. So when you are ready, just get yourselves cozy. And Tal is going to be wonderful enough to play some music for us. Okay, so close your eyes if you feel comfortable. Just for a minute, notice your breathing and just fall into a natural pattern. Oftentimes when I ask someone to pay attention to their breathing, it suddenly becomes harder. That's because we've made something unconscious very conscious. We want you to be very conscious as we journey to your soul. So let's take one of those deep sighs in. Breathe in. Release. Every time we do that, I want you to reach way down to that soul level. So that you can say hello to your best friend, your best ally. So let's take another breath in. Out. Just reach way down. Find that sweet spot. Once you feel that, you know it is bringing with you everything you were supposed to just feel in here. Any sense of knowing and connection. And the beauty that it is to know you at that level. And when you're ready, you can come back to the room. Make sure you're grounded. You know, a lot of times when I do this, there are tears that come. And my first impression of that is that you have connected with that part of you that you've missed for so long, that it gives you everything you need to know what's next. And we shy away from our emotions, and yet they are just cues for us. But there's something for us to align with or to heal. Same thing with thoughts. We throw thoughts out of our brains sometimes. It's so important for us to reconnect with our souls, both as individuals and as a global population. And like I said, we keep doing what we're doing globally, and then we might as well kiss this planet goodbye. But the more each and every one of us decides we're going to live through that soul and connect and become healthier and healthier, and send out that collective energy, we're going to shift it. We're going to shift. It's a very good feeling. You're feeling connected. You feel that sweet spot. I want to say one more thing, and this is, I'm happy to report back on however this goes, but so I've been called back and forth to Peru several times, and I should say several times, twice. I've been called back for the third time, and my friend Lynn and I are going, this is coming actually in about 5 weeks, which is fabulous to me. There's big stuff that's changing, and Peru, Machu Picchu, is all about helping shift to that more loving energy. And so we don't know why. Well, we sort of know why, we just don't know what. There's something that's going to be shifting, and we're supposed to take part in it. And I want you all to start holding space for love energy as much as you can. Really from this day forward. I'm not going to say till the end of September, because really it has to be from this day forward. But there's, I don't know if I want to call it a ceremony or what, because we're not quite sure. They said, we'll know when we get there. There's other things that have happened when I've been there before, but hold the love space for you and for everybody else as much as you can up until that time, because we have got to start shifting. And it starts with us. It starts with us. And I'll disclose that one of the things, I tend to be a Pollyanna. I always think I'm such a positive person. But one of the things over the last 6 weeks that I have realized is how much I live in fear with little things. But those little things add up to big collective things. So I have shifted my language, I've shifted a lot, and there's more to shift. But it's one of those things that has to start with each one of us. And so this is where this love energy is coming from, and it's healing the soul, and that's what it's about. Because once we heal each and every one of our souls, we heal the planet. So thank you so much for listening, and I will be around to answer questions. We've got, and I do have books here. Please take a fortune cookie, and I will look forward to seeing many of you hopefully afterwards.